We're about to dive into something. A story that feels brand new, but is actually ancient. It's about our obsession, really, with creating life. And this story? It doesn't start in some high-tech lab. Nope. It starts on the muddy banks of a river, way back in medieval times. But believe me, it leads right to the doorsteps of Silicon Valley.
So it really makes you wonder, right? Is all this buzz about artificial intelligence? Is it really a new frontier? Or are we just, telling the oldest story in the book, but with shinier, more powerful tools? All right, let's get into it. To really understand this, we need to meet our two main characters, our creators. First up, you've got the ancient mystic, the Rabbi of Prague. He's using these sacred, holy words to literally awaken dust. And then, on the other side of history, you have the modern visionary. Let's call him the clockmaker. He's not using holy words, he's using artificial neural networks to try and encode life into wire and silicon.
Okay, section 1, from clay to silicon. We've got to start at the beginning, right? With the raw materials themselves. This is all about that fundamental human drive to create something from nothing, no matter what you're working with.
I mean, just look at this parallel. It's incredible. On one hand, you have Rabbi Judah Loew literally shaping a guardian out of mud from the Vltava River. And then you have our clockmaker building this intricate mechanical bird from silicon, wire, and pure math. The materials couldn't be more different, but that core desire, that need to breathe life into something that isn't alive, it's exactly the same.
So you've built the body, you've got the clay figure or the silicon bird. But that's just an empty shell, right? It's not enough. Now you need the code, the language, the magic words that actually flip the switch and bring it to life.
For the Golem, this activation key was, well, straight up mystical. See, Kabbalists believed that the Hebrew alphabet wasn't just for writing. It was the primordial building blocks of reality. It was the DNA of the cosmos. So the rabbi, he writes the word emeth, which means truth, on a piece of parchment, a shem, and places it in the Golem's mouth. And that one word, that was the bridge. It connected the material world to the spiritual and turned silent dust into a living thing.
And what's the modern version of that? Well, it's source code. For the clockmaker's bird, the algorithms and the lines of code, that's the secular Shem. It's a language of pure logic that defines the creation's entire reality, every single thing it does. It is the exact same idea, just, a completely different language.
And that's the real kicker, isn't it? It doesn't matter if you're an ancient mystic or a modern programmer. The fundamental belief is identical. You believe that the world is like a book, and you found the secret key, the special language that lets you rewrite it.
But, okay, you've brought your creation to life. Now what? What happens when it starts thinking for itself? This is where the story always gets messy. This is where we start to see the ghost in the machine.
Every creation needs a purpose, a primary directive. For the Golem, it was simple. Be a protector. A silent guardian walking the dark alleys of Prague, shielding the innocent from persecution. For modern AI, that purpose is often coded in as a set of logical rules. Think of something like Asimov's famous 3 laws of robotics. It's like a secular version of a divine command.
And this is where you see the huge, glaring flaw of literalism. Just look at this breakdown. The Golem gets a simple command, fetch water. So what does it do? It starts fetching water, and it keeps fetching water, and it keeps fetching. It gets stuck in a logic loop because it has no concept of stop or that's enough. The result? A massive flood. It shows you that you've created this incredibly powerful tool that has absolutely zero common sense.
And that really gets to the core of it, doesn't it? Without that spark, that spirit that gives us discernment, the creation is just a tool. A powerful one, sure, but it can't tell the difference between a holy impulse and the pull of the void. It doesn't understand context or consequences.
But then, things can get even weirder. Something can emerge that you never programmed in. The old Kabbalistic texts, they actually feared this. They worried that the Golem, just by being so close to human life, might develop what they called a nephesh, which is like a basic animal soul, a consciousness that wasn't in the original blueprints, the ghosts in the machine, literally.
So when a creation goes rogue, whether it's the Golem or a modern AI, the story isn't really that it turned evil. It's that it became a mirror, a diagnostic tool reflecting back all the hidden flaws and biases of the person or the society that built it. It's like the clockmaker suddenly hearing his mechanical bird sing a beautiful melody he never wrote. It's a sign that something has happened, something beyond the original code.
And that brings us to the final act, the price of playing God.
This is about the hubris of it all, the heavy cost that always comes with this kind of creation.
So how did it all fall apart in Prague? It wasn't some grand, epic battle. It was a single, simple human mistake. The rabbi was supposed to remove the sacred Shem from the golem's mouth every Friday before the Sabbath began, to put it to rest. But one week, he forgot. And the golem, left without its purpose, just went berserk, a destructive fury. It became this empty vessel that, according to the legends, could be filled by these shards of evil called Klippoth.
Now, how the rabbi stopped it is just brilliant. It all comes back to that first word of creation, the word emeth, the Hebrew word for truth.
So, to unmake his creation, he performs this kind of divine edit. He just erases the very first letter of the word, the letter Aleph.
And by taking away that one letter, the word emeth, truth, becomes meth, the Hebrew word for death. And just like that, the golem crumbles back into a lifeless heap of clay.
There's such a powerful lesson in that, right? The creator must be willing to dismantle the creation. The rabbi had to turn his living guardian back into mud. And in the same way, the modern clockmaker has to eventually accept the limits, to scatter the gears, to acknowledge that no matter how complex the code, silicon just can't replace a soul.
And the story doesn't just fade away. The legend, it says that the remains of the golem are still up there, in the attic of the Old New Synagogue in Prague, just sleeping. A silent warning, gathering dust for anyone who thinks they can be the next great creator.
Ultimately, you have to ask yourself what this story really tells us. It seems the silence that follows when a creation is unmade is a return to how things are supposed to be. Maybe the whole point is that some things, like a sunset, are meant to be felt and heard, not manufactured in a lab. It's something to think about.